Hello, and welcome back to another video. This video features two true and disturbing encounters with murderers. The first is about the man known as the Aurora Hammer Killer, Alex Ewing. I recently shared this story for the first time in a True Scary Stories group on Facebook. I got a lot of feedback from people who lived in the same town I did when this event happened. It felt good to finally share my experience. Shortly after posting, a woman contacted me and physically threatened me and my family if I wrote about him again. She believes him innocent, etc. It spooked me. I took my story down. I don't need weirdos like her in my life. I've since done some thinking about this and wanted to post my story again, somewhere, anonymously. It's my experience, and I'm not gonna let some crazy child killer dater bitch scare me. So, here it is. I originally thought this incident happened in January of 1984. I now realize it was probably later in 1983. I was 8 years old and lived in Aurora, Colorado, a suburb southeast of Denver, Colorado. We lived in a brand new subdivision, and I loved it. Our house was busy. I had 3 older sisters and an older brother, a grandmother, and my mom living in our home at the time. My 10-year-old sister and I shared a bedroom on the main floor. Our house was a ranch style. I loved this room. My twin bed was pushed up against the wall that had a window that faced into our backyard. I liked to push the curtains aside at night and perch my elbows on the windowsill and look outside. The window was elevated, but not so high that I couldn't see into the yard easily. My older sisters shared the room next to us, and my grandmother was in a large room across a small hallway from us. My mother had a finished bedroom all the way downstairs in the basement. My brother had the rest of the basement. He was 16 years old at the time and had a lot of friends that were always coming and going. I remember our house was always being full of guests. We had a really cold spell hit us that week. It was super icy out, and my sister and I had been playing in the backyard. Our backyard had not yet been enclosed with a fence. We had these circular snow sleds that we would stand on and glide across the slick parts of the grass. We weren't good at putting our outdoor toys away and had left them strewn across the lawn. That night, something woke me out of a sound sleep. I thought about getting up and going downstairs to sleep with my mother. I did this from time to time, as she and I were really close. Then, I heard a noise outside my window. It sounded like someone was slowly walking across the snow in the backyard. I could hear the frozen grass crunching under their feet. I then heard someone say, "Shit," or another explicit word, and something clink. I perched up out of my bed and moved my curtain aside and looked out the window. I think I originally thought I would see my brother or one of his friends out there. He often came in late at night, past curfew, and usually snuck through the backyard into an open basement window. I remember thinking he shouldn't be doing this on a school night, and I was going to tell my mother in the morning that he woke me up. It wasn't my brother. I saw a young man probably in his early 20s that I didn't recognize. I made eye contact with him and then quickly scanned the rest of the yard for my brother. I didn't see him anywhere. I was going to move away from the window, but the man's eyes were glued on mine, and he started walking towards my gaze. I froze. I couldn't move. He came as close as he could to the glass. He smiled at me. It was an eerie smile. It was an, "Oh look, you caught me doing something I shouldn't be doing," kind of smile. I remember he had crystal blue eyes, almost gray. Something about his expression was not right. It took me a few seconds to realize I was feeling fear. He was not a friend of my brother's, nor supposed to be in our yard at that time of night. I panicked and jumped off my bed and quickly ran downstairs to tell my mother. Once I got to the basement, I saw that my brother was sound asleep in his bed as well. This scared me more, as I knew now for sure that this man in our yard was most likely not a friend of my brother's. My mom calmed me down, came upstairs, and turned the light on outside and looked into the yard from the sliding glass door windows. She didn't see anyone. I remember her not making a big deal out of it, and I ended up sleeping in the basement bedroom with her the rest of the night. I didn't sleep well. I wondered why that man was in our yard and where he went. I remember feeling scared he might come back. I don't know the exact timeline, but I am guessing it was a few weeks later that a family a few streets over from us were murdered in the middle of the night by an intruder with a hammer and a knife. The father, mother, and 7-year-old daughter were killed, and a 3-year-old daughter was left for dead but miraculously survived. This crime sent our entire community over edge. The police did not seem to know who had done this horrible thing or why. All we knew was that the Hammer Killer probably chose their home at random and came in through an open garage door. No one in my family mentioned to me the man I saw in our yard again. I asked my mother about it years later, and she tensed up. The Hammer Killer case went cold, and the community moved on, as people do. I moved further south to a different side of Denver. I never forgot that man in my yard, though, and always felt he might have been the same man who murdered that family. As years went by, more information came out, and they linked the murder of the family to a vicious murder and rape of a woman in another community, Lakewood, as well. They also linked him to a savage attack on a couple and flight attendant in Aurora, as well as through DNA. He was a serial predator, and he was active in our community that whole time. Fast forward to 2019, and I am watching the news. I can't believe it. They have solved the cold case of that family's murder from 1984, as well as the other attacks. They flashed a picture of the suspect across the screen, and my heart drops. It's him. It's that man I saw as a child. I have that face saved in my memory because he spooked me so badly. I said something about it to my brother, and he shrugged about it. I mentioned it to some friends, and they said that was creepy, but there was no way I could have remembered something like that. I thought they might be right until the news also showed some photos of the suspect when he was younger and likely committed the murders. That is exactly the man I saw. I know it. It's changed the way I think about things. It's changed the gratitude that I feel for my life. What if he hadn't tripped on our sleds in the yard and somehow made his way into our house? My sisters and I could have been the ones on the news. I was about 7 years old, my brother about 10. It was well past our bedtime when our mom woke up off the couch to put us to bed. Our dad worked construction out of town back then, so it was often just us three at the house for weeks at a time. Up the stairs and to the immediate right was our parents' bedroom. Going left put you in the middle of a hallway. Taking another left down that hallway led to my brother's room. The opposite end was my room, which was also across the hall from our upstairs bathroom. At either end of the hallway are windowed doors we always kept locked and rarely used. The door on my end led to a balcony overlooking our front yard, and the door on my brother's end opened to our back porch. The house kinda leans into a small hill. My brother and mom both had a habit of waking up in the middle of the night to use the bathroom. I only knew this because I was always a light sleeper, and they just couldn't help flushing with the door wide open. This night, however, my brother stopped on his way to his room and came back towards the bathroom.
I'm gonna try to pee before I go to bed. The last few nights, I've been too afraid to walk to the bathroom. I keep seeing a man wearing stripes at the end of the hallway.
I don't know if my mom wrote it off as my brother telling ghost stories to try to scare me, or if she was already half asleep and didn't catch it, but she didn't react at all to my brother's confession. I, on the other hand, was terrified by it. The fear of seeing a ghost like that at the end of the hallway or through the windows is the reason I started running from the stairs to my bedroom at night. Years later, when I was about 18, my mom and I were having a conversation in her car about a dog we had for a very short time when I was little. We were sharing stories about Max's tendency towards destroying my shoes and other unruly behaviors when my mom blurted out,
Do you remember that time I opened the front door for the cops and Max ran inside to the kitchen and started tearing open that big bag of dog food we had?
This really caught me by surprise, because in all the years I lived in that house, we never once called the cops. Gun owner family in a quiet, rural West Virginia neighborhood. You get it. I asked her what she was talking about, and she looked equally surprised as if she had just revealed something by accident.
Oh, that's right. I never told you because you were too young at the time. One night, I woke up hearing noises outside my window, and when I looked, I saw a man staring into my bedroom.
She went on to describe how turning on the lights caused him to take off running, and how she grabbed my dad's pistol before calling the cops.
I can't remember all the details I gave them when they showed up. Tall, white male, wearing a striped shirt and jeans. Short, dark hair, something like that. They said it matched the description of a man they were looking for in the area. It turns out he had escaped from jail on a murder charge.
Now, I know it sounds so obvious hearing those two stories back to back, but it wasn't until a few years ago, in my mid-20s, that I pieced together that my brother had unknowingly warned us about a murderer who spent multiple nights casing our home. I spoke with my mom and brother separately about the stories. First, my mom corrected my memory about what she found out from the police. It wasn't someone that had escaped. Rather, the description fit a suspect in an ongoing murder investigation. I'm honestly not sure if that makes it better or worse. Also, my brother already knew about my mom's story. He still can't remember much about how he saw the person, but it sounds like it scared him as much as the story did from me when we were kids. He said he's probably suppressing the memory, and I can't tell if he's joking about that or not. My brother did remind me of a piece of the story I didn't know was related. For the week after my mom called the cops, our older cousin brought a shotgun and stayed with us until our dad returned. Of course, at the time, I didn't know why he was staying with us. I mentioned this to my mom, and she told me a detail I didn't know. Our cousin, who was sleeping in my brother's room, set up a makeshift alarm system with some string and bells on the door in case anyone came around again. A string, some bells, and a shotgun. Affordable home security in the 90s, I guess.